You know, a few seconds ago, my wife told me that I was not cool. My response to her was one, I look like Spider-Man. And two, I am cool. Deal with it. All right. For reading this week, my friends, we are going to be working together on comparing and contrasting two characters. Those two characters could be from the same story. They could be from different books that you've read. Let's take a look at what we're going to do, how we're going to do it so that you have no worries. And on our first session on Wednesday, we're going to work on polishing this up and getting it ready to turn in. Here's what we're going to do. All right. Can I tell you a secret? There's so many things I miss about being your teacher at school. One of them is being able to choose all these cool things that I get to read. And so I thought I'd open today's reading lesson with a poem from my favorite poet, Shel Silverstein. It's called Jimmy Jet and His TV Set. I'll tell you the story of Jimmy Jet, and you know what I tell you is true. He loved to watch his TV set almost as much as you. He watched all day, he watched all night, till he grew pale and lean. From the early show to the late, late show, and all the shows in between. He watched till his eyes were frozen wide, and his bottom grew into his chair. And his chin turned into a tuning dial, and antenna grew out of his hair. And his brain turned into TV tubes, and his face to a TV screen. And two knobs saying vert and horizon grew where his ears had been. And he grew a plug that looked like a tail, so we plugged in little Jim. And now instead of him watching TV, we all sit around and watch him. Nothing to do with our lesson, but it's a cool poem that I'd like to share with you, and I'm going to try to share with you a few cool poems during our Zoom meetings and our reading videos as we go. So I'm going to read you a fable today. Very famous old fable written by a Greek writer named Aesop. He wrote these fables in order to teach you a lesson. I'm going to look at this fable under the lens of, I'm going to look at the two characters in there, and I'm going to compare and contrast them. And remember, to compare tells how two characters are similar, and to contrast tells how two characters are different. So let me go ahead and read you this fable. The North Wind and the Sun. Of everything in the sky, the sun and the stars, the rain and the snow, the North Wind boasted that he was the strongest. There is nothing that can resist me, the North Wind cried, blowing such a blast that roofs lost their shingles and streams turned to ice. Are you sure? Asked the Sun. The sky and the land are full of strong things. Why, it might even be that I am stronger than you. You? Roared the North Wind and laughed an icy laugh. Yes, why not? Let's put it to the test, answered the Sun. Do you see that traveler down below us? I'm sure I can make him take off his cloak. Are you strong enough to do the same? Of course, blustered the North Wind. He sent howling blasts of frigid air to tear the cloak away from the traveler. But the man, shivering in the cold, only wrapped the cloak tighter around himself. No gust that the North Wind blew could rip it from his grasp. Now it is my turn, said the Sun, and he sent warm beams of light down to where the traveler was walking. The man sighed with relief and pushed his cloak back off his shoulders. Steadily the sun shone until the traveler pulled off his hat, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and at last took off his cloak and lay down to rest in the shade of a nearby tree. So we're going to take a closer look at the wind and the sun. Some of the character traits that represent them that they have in common, which I'll put in the center of my Venn diagram, and some of the character traits that they're different, which I'll put on the outside of my Venn diagram. So let's look at the wind first. How would I describe the wind in our story? How would you describe the wind in our story? So the word that I came up with was arrogant. The wind was very proud. He was boasting. He was bragging. He was saying, I am the best and no one else can beat me. That's why I used arrogant to describe him. I also described him as being strong. He was a powerful force. He could freeze lakes. He could rip the shingles off of roofs. Now, how is the sun different from the wind? I'm going to say that the sun was very intelligent. Intelligent is a synonym or has a similar meaning to the word smart or wise. The sun was very intelligent in that he knew that he could use his gentle strength in order to win the contest against the wind. Which leads into my next character trait for the sun, gentle. He knew he had power, but he knew he had to use it very carefully in order to win the contest against the strong and powerful wind. Now, what do they both have in common? I wrote that they were both creative and competitive. Creative, they were able to come up with unique, interesting ways in order to try to win the contest, whether it was blowing the cloak off the man in the story or gently warming him and making him sweat in order to take his cloak off like the sun did. They were both very competitive. The wind, he thought he was the best. The sun said, oh yeah, I bet I'm better. They both wanted to win. They both had that desire to win. So they were both very competitive. Now, the key that you want to do when you're doing your comparing and contrasting of your two characters is focusing on evidence. Evidence, arrogant. The wind thought he was better than everyone. He was very proud. Strong, he can turn streams into ice. That's very strong. He was competitive. He wanted to win, and so was the sun. Creative, the sun used heat, and the wind tries to remove the jacket by making the man super cold. What creative ways to try to solve a problem. The sun, he was intelligent because he knew that sometimes gentle force is more effective than brute force, meaning all strength and power in trying to get it done as quickly as possible. The sun was also very gentle. He used his power, but he used it very carefully in order to win. And you might be thinking to yourself, Mr. Thompson, one, why did the camera just point at the carpet on your floor? It's because my highly paid camera person dropped my fantastic camera phone. And since I said that, the technology ghost has decided to turn off my computer. So once again, in the middle of one of my videos, you will watch me log in. Can you please zoom in on the screen? In your English Language Arts Phase 2 learning packet, there are 2 charts that are full of all different types of character traits. Things like glad, joyful, unhappy, sorry, upset, angry, kind, helpful, if we scroll down. Afraid, frightened, nervous, shy, selfish, rude, bold, clever, lazy. We could definitely use some of these traits to describe our characters in the fable that we read. And then if you scroll up from that chart, you will see what your assignment is. Your assignment for Wednesday that I need you to complete is to create a Venn diagram to compare, tell how they're similar, and contrast 2 main characters. You can use these from different books. You can use them from the same books. The bottom part says, write a paragraph to describe how the characters are similar or different. We are going to start doing this together on Wednesday, so don't worry about this part at all. We're going to take care of it together. I know I have some go-getters in the audience who are going to turn something into me before Wednesday, like friends who turned things into me this Tuesday. That's awesome. That gives me the opportunity to look at your first draft, to give you some feedback on how you can edit and revise it in order to make it the very best that it can be. Some ideas that you can use that popped into my head that would work really well. I bet you could find 2 characters in Friendship According to Humphrey that you could compare and contrast. Maybe you could do Aldo and Miss Brisbane. Maybe you could do Og and Humphrey. Maybe you could do Tabitha and Richie. Maybe you could do Tabitha and Og. Or maybe even Miranda and Humphrey. Could you compare a hamster and a person? Or a frog and a person? Absolutely, yes, you could. As long as you're using your traits and your evidence. The key to what we're doing after you do your Venn diagram is I would like for you to come up with at least 2 character traits for the wind, 2 character traits for the sun, meaning character 1 and character 2, and then 2 character traits that they both have in common. Then on the bottom of your Venn diagram, I want you to do exactly what we just did together. Tell me each of the traits and give me a very short, sweet, notice I'm not even using sentences here, to show evidence from the text that supports the traits that you used. If you have any questions or concerns about this assignment, please feel free to email me, text me, or call me, and I'll be happy to meet with you at any time in order to facilitate this process for you. Can't wait to see you guys on Wednesday. Please remember to bring your Venn diagram with your evidence showing why you chose the character traits that you did. Bye.